This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
Do you play FanDuel and feel like you aren't creating consistent money-making lineups? Go over to the DFS Doctors on Twitter at the DFS Doctors and DM them with promo code Detroit Sports to get a free trial for their analytically formulated 70% lifetime profit rate NFL and NBA lineups. The whole purpose of playing daily fantasy sports is to get out there and compete and give yourself a chance to win. So go over to the DFS Doctors. Let them help you. They have analysts on staff that look at the best optimal lineup that you can put out there to win money. So why not take advantage? At the DFS Doctors, promo code Detroit Sports.
CBD is a game changer sweeping the nation. This hemp extract is the natural way to elevate your mood, eliminate aches and pains, reduce anxiety, and keep you sleeping all night long. It can even cut your workout recovery time in half. Get in the game today with 20% off all orders of CBD and lavender products from Lavender Lane, a lavender farm located right here in Milan, Michigan. Just go to lavenderlanemi.com today and enter coupon code Detroit for 20% off your entire order. Guys, look, these amazing products are infused with calming lavender to maximize their effectiveness, meaning your CBD items only take minutes to take effect, which is way quicker than those pills you were about to swallow. On top of it, they are perfect for men and women. Lavender Lane has lab-tested CBD creams, tinctures, and roll-ons that are perfect for any situation, even if you're on the go. Put your health back in your hands by heading over to lavenderlanemi.com and entering coupon code Detroit for 20% off your entire order of CBD and lavender products. What do you have to lose? Your satisfaction is guaranteed or your money back. So if you need lavender gifts for your loved ones or just looking for the natural way to ease your discomfort with CBD, go to lavenderlanemi.com and use coupon code Detroit to unlock these miraculous benefits of CBD and lavender. That's lavenderlanemi.com. And remember, use coupon code DETROIT for 20% off your CBD and lavender products from Michigan's own Lavender Lane.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the DocNJock Wrestling Podcast. This is episode 125. On today's episode, we've got a ton of news and notes. Killer Kross is starting somewhere in WWE, and we know where. Monday Night Raw had maybe an injury. We're going to discuss that, as well as Matt Hardy talking about where else he'd like to wrestle. Doing it with me, as always, he's the one, he's the only, he is the Doc, John Macaroon. What's up, cuz?
Going on 5 days at home, quarantine, loving life, man. It's a good time. Always enjoy the opportunity to record a wrestling podcast with you. It's crazy, man. It's crazy times right now as we discuss WrestleMania. By the time this podcast drops, there's a strong likelihood that all the WrestleMania matches would have been taped already. So it's freaking crazy at this point in time to do a podcast when potentially they could have already recorded and taped Drew McIntyre defeating Brock Lesnar. So it's crazy shit, man. It's crazy times. I've actually, to be honest with you, I've pushed down Raw and SmackDown to like 3 and 4 in terms of my priority. I'm watching AEW, NXT, SmackDown maybe, and Raw last.
Yeah. You know what? I'm in the same boat. With everything that's going on with the coronavirus, it has really... We talked about last week how we've enjoyed that wrestling is still here and we still get some matches, but the way it's being produced and the way it's being delivered to us is so poor when it comes from WWE. And I'm in the same boat as you where I have prioritized AEW above all else, and then probably NXT, and then probably SmackDown, and then Raw at the very, very back end. And it's just, I find it so difficult to watch because it's awkward as far as the interactions go with the competitors, not having the audience. They'll deliver a line when they're cutting a promo, and it's like they're waiting for the audience feedback, but there's no audience to give you that feedback. So just go out there and just talk. You know, you can adapt the way you deliver your promo, adapt the way that you are doing things because it's just weird, you know? I mean, if you watched AEW this week, and if you watched AEW last week, Chris Jericho is leaning heavily into them not having an audience. And I think it's fantastic. It has made for some of the best, most candid moments on these programs because he has called out the guys in the background who are playing the music, and he says, "Shut the damn music off. There's nobody even here." He's called out Matt Hardy, and he's like, "There's nobody here to say your stupid delete chant." Like he is leaning into the fact that they don't have an audience, that they're doing all of this stuff in front of instead of an empty warehouse or instead of an empty arena. So just lean into the fact that nobody's around, adapt how you're doing things, and present this in a more, I don't even know what the word is that I'm looking for here. Just present it better. It's so frustrating watching this programming where you've got guys who are acting like there's guys in the audience. You know, go back, what was it, 2 weeks ago to the Stone Cold podcast or the Stone Cold promo. Like I had to like get up and leave the room because it was so bad. You know, Raw has been, and look, say what you will, Paul Heyman is a master at setting up programming. He's fantastic at it. But what he's been doing with Raw, and whether it's him or whether it's Vince or whether it's somebody else in the background, it just hasn't been good. You know, I'm tired of the replays.
Yeah, exactly. WWE has decided for whatever reason to continue to replay Royal Rumbles, past episodes of WrestleMania, and you just wonder why they're not utilizing the plethora of talent that they have. AEW is just more creative. They have the better ability to put on a television show. I mean, when they had Matt Hardy like levitating all over the place, I was like,
it was great.
That shit was sweet. It's like, you know what? Yes, suspend disbelief. That's what makes wrestling awesome, is the ability to do different things. And that look that Chris Jericho was giving was like, what the hell? And then the announcers were like, am I dreaming? And then you're just sitting there going, what the hell is going on? And it's great because in WWE, Hardy Jericho would appeal to nobody. They would probably parse it out and script it so heavily that everybody would hate their lives to the point where they'd turn it off. In AEW, you're just transfixed like, wow, this stuff is great. This shit's awesome. You can't wait. And for me, AEW this week was awesome. Seeing Cody, seeing the likes of Chris Jericho and Matt Hardy. I just had myself a good time watching AEW collectively. And you just got a chance to see a bunch of great storylines start to develop. And WWE has the ability to do it. It's just their laziness in their production. And I mean, hell, I understand you're producing 3 hours, but these are tough times. Just cut out an hour. Just cut out an hour, go 2 hours on Raw, cut out the replay part, and just maybe in the first hour, just run a replay of Corey Graves' podcast or do some interviews or use that third hour more productively. But in terms of what WWE, Raw, and SmackDown are doing, it sucks. And now you're hearing plans with how WWE might go all cinematic with WrestleMania in their presentation. I just don't find value in taping WrestleMania. I'm just bummed out. And 2 nights? Come on now, man. 1 night's WrestleMania. That's the way it is. Some similarities. And I'm disappointed in how WWE has approached their 2 main marquee shows in the age of the coronavirus.
No, I agree with you 100%. Nobody wants to see a taped WrestleMania. Just postpone it, push it back.
Yeah.
Adjust. If you watch it, how AEW had a pay-per-view scheduled. They had Blood and Guts scheduled, and they had to cancel it because of the coronavirus. And then if you look at the way their storylines have just kind of flowed, they've just kind of rolled into something new, right? You've got Kenny Omega taking on Sammy Guevara. You've got Matt Hardy taking on Chris Jericho. It's like the storylines just don't stop. They just move and evolve into something else. WWE has a really hard time pivoting. They get so structured and they're so rigid in their ways that they can't just adjust on the fly. You know, and that's what wrestling is. Guys get hurt all the time. You have to make judgment calls. You gotta just kind of move. You gotta shift the story a little bit. When we get to news and notes, we're going to talk about a shifting of stories because of an injury, and that's what WWE has to do. But when it comes to your biggest pay-per-view of the year, you totally undermine it, you totally demean it by pre-taping it and then delivering it to us over the course of 2 days. And like you said, everything's already been taped. You know, I think they're wrapping up filming today on Friday for what they're going to serve to us. What is it, next week for WrestleMania? And it's gonna feel odd. It's gonna be awkward. And kudos to the guys who are going out there and doing it, right? Because it's hard doing it in front of an empty building. You know, for years now, these guys have been selling out jam-packed arenas with anywhere from 20 to 80 to maybe 100,000 people in attendance. And now you're doing it for basically three dudes who are sitting up at a press box talking. Like, you can hear them talking as you're wrestling. You know what I'm saying? So it's kudos to the guys who are still performing, but WWE needs to think better and it needs to do better. And you have all this TV time. Give it to guys who are underutilized. Give it to guys who are hungry. You've got a ton of wrestlers who don't want to wrestle right now because of everything that's going on. And they're choosing to sideline themselves. So you know what? You got young, hungry talent. Give them the spotlight. Introduce your viewership and your fan base to some new guys, to the next generation, to the up-and-comers, to the guys who want to be out there and doing it, and let them put on great matches. You don't have to have 5-minute matches. Nobody says that you can't have a good 25-minute match. Nobody says that you can't have an awesomely produced 10-minute vignette. You know, you can fill time. You just got to think outside the box. And WWE has done such a poor job adjusting to what's going on. And it makes watching Raw and SmackDown absolutely painful. Whereas AEW, I think, has just risen to the occasion and has filled in gracefully with everything that they're doing. You know? Now,
in regards to WWE, though, I will give those that have been given the time to cut more promos some credit. AJ Styles' promo was pretty solid. I think that he has moved that story. Yes, because he called out the dead man. He's saying, look, I'm going to bring out the dead man. He's calling out and kind of portraying it like The Undertaker, Mark Calloway is a sellout, and now he's going to fight the guy. But I'm starting to get the vibe. I'm not sensing that it's just yet believable that is The Undertaker going to put over AJ Styles? AJ Styles needs to win this match, because how do you go forward with AJ Styles, a guy that's going to be on your roster for the next 2, 3, 4 years, and having come off of a major WrestleMania match with a loss? But at the same time, The Undertaker, it just seems like right now, it's great to see him. It's great when he's out there. It's great to see him destroying sets and stuff like that. But at this point in time, when you look back at like WrestleMania 25, 26, he was old then, and he's still at it. So I just think that in this situation, if AJ Styles doesn't go over, I just think that it's going to be a major dent in the club. It's going to hurt his career. He's got to get over somehow in this matchup, but I'm not seeing it just based on, you know, obviously that AJ Styles is the heel and he's cutting these nasty promos. It seems like we're getting set up for The Undertaker to get his revenge at Mania.
See, I really feel like AJ Styles, his promos have almost been Control-C, Control-V. It's a lot of copy and paste.
Yeah,
I'm going to call you out the same way. It's going to be the same promo.
Right.
That really has me frustrated. And I think you're right, though. You make a really good point. If one guy has to come out the winner, it can't be the guy who shows up once or twice a year.
No.
You know, like how do you expect to move AJ Styles along here? We talked about it when this match was announced, or when there was speculation of this match being announced, that he was a guy who could possibly take a loss. But as they built to this, it really seems hard that if he takes a loss, it's not going to be a little bit of a setback. On top of that, he's supposed to be getting over these guys in the club. And
yes.
That's a lot of weight to carry for one guy to be able to get these other two individuals over. These other two individuals are just constantly getting smacked around by The Undertaker. So it doesn't, the way they have built to this storyline and built to WrestleMania, it's a little bit perplexing, and I don't necessarily think it's worked the way that you want it to work, because AJ Styles has to come out the victor here, right? So if The Undertaker showed up and there was some back and forth between AJ Styles and The Undertaker, right? Or if AJ Styles was getting his comeuppance before WrestleMania, it would make more sense for him to beat The Undertaker at WrestleMania, you know? But the way this is kind of played out, it really, like you said, it feels like The Undertaker is going to win this match.
What did you make of Triple H showing up at NXT and then having the stare down between Tommaso Ciampa and Johnny Gargano. I thought Johnny G, I thought it was a great segment, and I got hyped for it. I mean, even though this is a feud that we've seen on several occasions, this is not something new here. I mean, they can't really find that many more ways of reinventing this feud. It's an epic feud, one of the great all-time NXT feuds, but at the same time, they put on so many great matches. I'm excited to see it whenever it takes place and things like that. So I thought it was a great segment. I thought it was premiere, and having Triple H kind of referee everything made for some good television.
Look, you've got probably the biggest star in NXT and a guy who, whenever he wants to come to the main roster, is going to come to the main roster, and as long as Vince doesn't screw it up, he's going to be big time. And then you've got probably one of the best wrestlers in NXT in Johnny Gargano and Johnny G. And you have all this going on with Triple H basically mediating it. I mean, it's a fantastic segment. And the thing is, this feud has dominated NXT for years now. This has been one of those things where it's almost like Shawn Michaels, Bret Hart, right? But not as severe. But you know, there was always this underlying tension between the two, and it dominated the Attitude Era for a while, and it's what really sparked off the Attitude Era when Vince screwed Bret, you know? But it was like getting to that point, there was some conflict. And I'm not saying Johnny G's and Tommaso Ciampa's conflict is to that level and it's real life like that, because I do think that they're probably really good friends in real life, but it is one of those feuds that have carried the programming on NXT for so long now. At some point, we've got to get a finish, and we're going to have to move on from this feud, and it'll be interesting to see how WWE does this. Like, who's going to be the guy to get the win here, and who's going to be the guy to walk away from all of this and go on to challenge Adam Cole? You know what I'm saying? In my estimation, I think it's going to be Tommaso Ciampa, because I think he's probably the guy that they feel is most ready and is further along and can really do a lot of the heavy lifting. Usually when you have a tag team, there's one guy who separates himself from the other guy, and Tommaso Ciampa has really separated himself. That being said, Johnny Gargano is still a savage, right? He's still great in his own respect. It's just, I think Tommaso Ciampa's a little bit further ahead. What do you make of WrestleMania having a female main event to highlight one of the nights? It'll probably be Saturday night, and it'll probably be Shayna Baszler versus Becky Lynch as that evening's main event. Now, when WrestleMania was announced and it was going to be 2 days, I think we both thought that it was going to be the Universal Championship highlighting one evening and the World Heavyweight Championship highlighting another evening. But it seems as though we're going to have the Raw Women's Championship highlighting one of the nights here. Well,
if it culminates in Shayna Baszler winning, I could go for that. I mean, she seems like now...
You shut your dirty whore mouth.
I am looking for the change because, look, the main character, it's kind of stale. You know it. We've talked about it. At this point in time, it's time to create new stars, and WrestleMania is that opportunity, but it's just going to be different because there's going to be no crowd, so who's she going to be acting all badass to? So for me, it's fine in terms of how it's going to play out and who gets placed where. I just think that now what you're hearing is because of the nature, because of the fact that it's going to be taped, they're going to potentially add more cinematography to it. In terms of the fact that they could, make it more movie-like or something different. I'm just not all about that way of creativity. I'm just sensing that WWE is going to let me down in terms of the productivity.
Oh, shocker! WWE letting you down. Now exactly. Look, I'm gonna eat that stale cookie called Becky Lynch all day long and twice on Sundays. Shayna Baszler wins. I get it, right? You're trying to create a new star. I think it's awesome that they're going to have a women's match, and I think it's awesome for Becky Lynch to get that nod yet again in main event WrestleMania. Now I get it; it's the second night, and I get it that it's under these weird circumstances that we're going to have the show, but I think that's a really cool nod to the women. We've talked about the women almost feeling like they've fallen back into this rut, into this place where WWE sees them almost as second-class citizens. And for them to get a highlight and get the rub to main event one of the evenings of WrestleMania, I think it's big time. I think it's really, really nice. I like it a lot. I think they probably should get the spotlight. Look, I really am not all that invested in this feud. There's been a whole lot that has really pulled my interest away from WWE in the last couple weeks, and they've done nothing to really bring me back into the fold. This feud doesn't have me on the edge of my seat. It doesn't have me geared up. I think the one feud that has me really pumped up to see is Drew McIntyre, Brock Lesnar.
Yes.
And I think that's just because we know that there's going to be a crowning of a new champion. Or at least it feels like that. I mean, maybe Brock Lesnar wins this, but for me, I think it's Drew McIntyre's time, and I think you're going to kind of have a little bit of a passing of the torch here, and
yes.
It's going to be his will to run, you know?
No doubt about it. It's going to be a good match. I think Brock Lesnar and Drew McIntyre could steal the show in terms of the way in which they put together this match. And I think that Brock Lesnar should put over Drew McIntyre. He's earned it. I think that's what people want to see. It's just, like I said, sucks because the whole nature of not having a crowd, it just really takes away from the art of professional wrestling in terms of this is a guy, Drew McIntyre, that's been around for a while, got fired, came back, worked his way all the way really from the bottom of NXT back to the main roster, and even
lower than that. He was on Impact and he was running the indies.
Yes, and now he's worked his way back through the WWE system, and time goes by so fast. It's been like 2 or 3 years since he's been back on Raw. So now he's going to get this opportunity. They've built a star, and it's just unfortunate that this year's Mania is going to go down like that. But hopefully this can potentially be done by SummerSlam, and we can get the fans back in, and you can get some more of the fans involved, some of that juice back. Now, some of the reviews have come in on Gronkowski, and some people are kind of down on him joining WWE, him being the host, in that a lot of people are skeptical in regards to what he can do because of the fact that how's he going to be used? Should he be a good guy? Should he be a bad guy? Can he get in the ring? Is he going to be this corny character in the manner in which he debuted? I thought his debut was good. I liked it. I liked the music. I thought it was good. But here's the problem. Eventually speaking, is this guy going to be a valet? Is he going to be a manager? I think he probably right now is best suited as a mouthpiece, not as a guy. I don't want to see Gronk wrestle. To be honest, I want to see Gronk, the personality, Gronk on the microphone. And I think you can make some money just alone on that. I don't want to see him turn on Mojo Rawley. I don't want to see him be a heel. I want to see Gronk just be someone's manager, get 2 or 3 guys that potentially need a mouthpiece, and let Gronk go. Give him an open floor, open forum. Say whatever the hell you want and tear the shit down. He'll be funny. But I'm not picturing him yet as a guy that's a professional WWE wrestler. Hell no.
Yeah, I don't see him as a WWE wrestler either. He's got some work that he has to do if that's what he wants to become.
He's talent. He's a name, but that's it.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see how invested and how interested he is in really honing that craft and becoming good and becoming better. You know, he's one of those guys who has all the personality in the world. Like he is the walking embodiment of charisma. It's interesting to see if he can put that to use and really get all of that charisma over and perform in the ring. You know, we talk about guys all the time being a 5-tool player, right? A guy who can go out there, perform in the ring and cut a promo and sell and have you eating out of the palm of their hand and believing in them and being able to play a face or a heel. He's a guy who is definitely a face, and he's definitely got the charisma and he's got the promo skills, but can he turn that around and put that into some good work in the ring? And it's going to really rely on him becoming that if that's what he wants to do.
Okay. Any other highlights, lowlights of WWE before we hit on AEW?
Not really. I really feel like Raw and SmackDown it was mostly lowlights for me.
Yeah, mostly lowlights, thumbs down. It is what it is. We just got to figure out in the coming shows ahead how they progress these storylines and how it looks and things like that. But memo to WWE, you don't need to keep showing Manias and Rumbles on your marquee shows. We're already seeing it and things like that. So I'm not down for that. But that's why we have Impact. That's why we have AEW to kind of present an alternative that's really interesting. And if you're looking to, if you only have so many discretionary hours for WWE, watch NXT and really enjoy the way it's produced. Because to segue into AEW, Matt Hardy on a recent podcast said that he truly believes that if Triple H was in control of the character, it would have took off. And again, it stinks in that Vince McMahon is meddling in a gimmick that is naturally over. How do you mess up a gimmick that's over? That's not supposed to happen. It's like, okay, Triple H, if you're Vince McMahon, all you gotta do is turn to your boy and be like, run with it, make us money. And why is Vince McMahon stooping to the level of involving himself with Matt Hardy? You know what I mean? That's a perfect angle to give to Triple H. Just be like, okay, this guy's famous, this angle's crazy, okay, whatever. Just make it happen. You know what I mean? And if it was going to be pushed aside, then put him back in NXT and let us get at least a couple years. You wasted, I mean, like you literally paid Matt Hardy for 3 years and got one pop out of it and one feud out of the broken character. What if the company's that big that you can waste money like that, let's be part of that, because it's unbelievable how AEW gravitates. They take a talent, and within 2 appearances, you're like, holy shit, I can't wait to see Jericho Hardy. I can't wait to see the next thing.
No, you're right, man. It's really
It's head scratching.
It's underwhelming what Vince does with these guys. And here's the thing. The broken character was over for, I want to say, the better part of a year and a half, 2 years.
The hottest thing in wrestling.
Yeah, it was incredible. He goes to WWE, and Vince is like, no, we can't do that. And basically takes him back to being the character that he originally was, and that was a character that was kind of flat. And like you said, you basically get one pop out of him, you get one feud out of him, and then he's on his way over the course of about 2 years, 3 years. So really underwhelming, really frustrating if you're a Matt Hardy fan. I mean, look, I popped super hard when he showed up at AEW. I was totally invested this week on AEW, watching him and Chris Jericho go back and forth. I remember watching him in Impact, and I remember coming and telling you, like, dude, you gotta check this out. It's amazing. It's great stuff. And it was great stuff. It was fantastic. And it was really and truly, man, it was incredible work by Matt Hardy. And I'm excited that he's in a place now where we get to see this as he wants to deliver it. It's really unfortunate that WWE tends to screw everything up and ruin characters. I mean, look no further than a guy like Brody Lee. Brody Lee is doing a great job in AEW. He was Luke Harper in WWE, and Vince got upset with him because the guy couldn't perform a southern draw to Vince's liking. That's really what killed his career. It's just dumb things like that. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, AEW was good. Seeing Jack Swagger was there was nice. Seeing a Cody match was great. I really liked Sammy Guevara's performance. I thought he did a great job getting himself over in his time. And then you get the main event situation, and you get the time where you get to see Jericho and Matt Hardy. I thought, all in all, AEW is packaging its time well, and they've taken advantage of that 2-hour time slot to make every single segment super important. And that's what it is that we can actually talk about rising stars, who's hot, who's not. We can talk about the decisions that are made in a critical manner, as opposed to WWE, where you're just like, why the hell are they doing this? And it's totally a turnoff. With AEW, we can actually critique it and get into it, where we can ask the first question I'll ask you is Jimmy Havoc being utilized properly? Because he's a guy that, you know, is taking some losses and is probably right there in the mid-card, but I think that he's probably got to pick up some wins, pick up some momentum, because that's a guy I think that is right there on the cusp of going from maybe lower mid-card to upper mid-card pretty quickly if you showcase him. He's got the skills. You see him in the ring with the big-timers, he's got it, but he's taking some losses.
Yeah, I think he's a guy who is, unless you really follow indies or unless you follow other types of wrestling besides WWE before AEW came into the fold, you probably don't know who Jimmy Havoc is. So I think what you're seeing is he's getting introduced to a new audience. So he's going to take a couple L's. He's going to go in there, he's going to face a guy like Cody, which kind of gives him a little bit of a rub. And I think what you'll end up seeing is, as he's put in that spotlight where he's in front of people more, he'll start to pick up the W's. I just really think at this time, he's just getting acclimated to a new audience, and people are kind of like starting to be like, oh, okay, so that's that guy. That's his gimmick. That's what he does. So I wouldn't read too much into it. I think you're right. At some point, he does have to start putting some wins together because he has been on the losing end of quite a few matches. But all that being said, I think it'll come with time. I'm in really no rush for him to sit there and become this guy who goes undefeated for 7 straight matches. You know what I'm saying? It's just one of those things where eventually he'll get the W's.
What was the highlight of AEW for you?
Oh, definitely Matt Hardy, Chris Jericho. Their back and forth was so good, man. It was so damn good. Jericho does such a good job of delivering every single promo. And Matt Hardy and him just kind of feeding off of each other. And Jericho went for the jugular. He calls him out and he's like, you know, you're even overshadowed by your little brother. You know, and it was so real. It was so hard hitting. It was fantastic. It really was.
One critique is they got to tighten it up. It ran, in my mind, just a little too long. And you don't want it where you're like, okay, wrap it up. It was good. I was into it, but I think they got to just cut out maybe just like 2 or 3 minutes from it and really tighten it up. But it's going to be great with the Elite versus the Inner Circle. So I'm a fan. I think that all the way around is going to pay off. And within moments, you realize, wow, AEW has a creative team, you know, with all the VPs, with all the ex-wrestlers that are involved. The crew, the creative writing team has done a good job, and they get commended because each week of television, they're utilizing it properly, and I think they're maximizing the value. The one thing that's going to be interesting to see is when they get additional programming, how it's going to be utilized and how it might affect the main show. But I think to start, they probably just need 1 extra hour to air on television where you can get a couple more matches in, a couple more highlights, kind of like an old WWE Superstars. Maybe you air it on a Saturday morning or a Sunday morning where you can recap some things, maybe 1 or 2 matches that you pre-tape. I don't think you need another 2-hour show. I think you need to utilize Dynamite to continue to build the stars. But status quo has been great, man. AEW Dynamite this week, I'd give it an A+, man. It was good. It was good all the way around, good segments. I thought all around the whole show was a highlight.
Yeah, I thought it was fantastic. I did another really excellent job of working underneath these conditions. I thought it was a really good show from top to bottom, and I thought it hit in just about every single segment. So, again, A for me too, man. I thought it was really, really good.
All right, before we get out of here, hit me with this week's professional wrestling news and notes. What you got, cuz?
So, breaking NXT UK TakeOver Dublin has been postponed until October 25th because of COVID-19. Originally, it was scheduled for April 26th. We do have some information coming from Dave Meltzer regarding what was supposed to take place for the Women's SmackDown Championship. It appeared that Sasha Banks versus Bayley was supposed to take place. That was scrapped when it became clear WWE Creative did not have enough time to tell their story. So thank goodness WWE Creative realized that they didn't have time to cram a storyline in there. Recently, you may have noticed that WWE is showing up on ESPN. Well, that's because WWE and ESPN have come to terms to stream classic WWE events for the next few weeks. This is in part a lead up to WrestleMania 36, which is going to take place on April 4th and 5th. The worldwide leader will allow WWE to help build that audience for WrestleMania this year. Razor reportedly suffered a torn bicep that will likely cause him to miss WrestleMania 36. This is according to Dave Meltzer on Wrestling Observer Radio. The injury likely occurred on the March 9th episode of Raw, which saw Seth Rollins, Buddy Murphy, Akam, and Razor beat the Street Profits and the Viking Raiders in an 8-man tag match. The original plan was for AOP to take on the Street Profits at WrestleMania 36. That is now changed to the Street Profits versus Andrade and Angel Garza. WWE has quarantined 2 of its superstars prior to WrestleMania 36. Rey Mysterio and Dana Brooke have both been separated from everyone else and will not take any chances of them being at WrestleMania 36 because they are both very, very sick right now. So no confirmation that they have the coronavirus, but they're both very sick, so WWE is not going to risk anything right now. Matt Hardy confirmed on social media his contract will allow him to book in New Japan Pro Wrestling if he chooses, and he stated he's interested. His words, my contract would allow that, Hardy wrote on Twitter. Truth be told, I'd love the opportunity to perform on New Japan Wrestling's Wrestle Kingdom show in some capacity. So maybe we'll get the Broken character in New Japan. WWE is reportedly down on the idea of CM Punk making an in-ring return for the company. According to Dave Meltzer of Wrestling Observer Radio, WWE is pretty negative about the thoughts of Punk coming back. Meltzer added there is a lot of bitterness from WWE against Punk. If you remember, Punk walked out on WWE following the 2014 Royal Rumble match and stayed out of wrestling for several years before recently returning. So I would expect CM Punk to make a debut at WrestleMania, like legitimately. Exactly. You know how these things work.
Yeah, that'd be awesome, man. It'd be a jolt that everybody needs. But if that's true, then that'd be crazy because it's just like it'd be printing money. You could tour off of CM Punk for a year to all the old buildings. Holy cow, man, you're crazy. That's I think a report that's meant to mislead for sure. That'd be great if we got to see him at least show up.
Dude, it would have you talking about WrestleMania, most definitely, not in a negative way.
Exactly.
On Monday Night Raw, just before a hesitant 3 count, it appeared Cedric Alexander was rocked and stunned by Andrade with a back elbow. If you go back, you watch the end of this match. It was an interesting few seconds to close. You can even see the referee hesitate before his 3 count. He comes down 1, 2, pulls it back, and then completes a third, his 3 count. It looked like Cedric Alexander got popped with a back elbow that really knocked him out and knocked him a little bit loopy. Andrade kind of realized what happened and was quick to make a cover. Killer Kross is going to start in NXT. Remember, we weren't sure if he was going to start on the red, blue, or yellow brand. A promo all but confirms he is NXT. And some of the ideas that Bray Wyatt had pitched about the upcoming match against John Cena at WrestleMania 36. According to sources, both versions of his character were to appear in the match. This has yet to happen in any of Wyatt's previous matches, but it is certainly now achievable with the match being pre-taped and not set to take place in an actual ring. Bray appeared in his lovely cardigan on a recent episode of SmackDown to confront Cena, something he has done incredibly rare since the Fiend character was introduced last year. Other ideas pitched could see Cena wrestle the Fiend in a warehouse, but then encounter the Mr. Rogers version of Bray's character in a Firefly Funhouse segment. Other sources say that the match will take place in this setting as a way to overcome the fact that there will be no fans in attendance, and it will also allow WWE to explore different styles of matches for the Fiend. If you have watched any of the Fiend's matches, they generally fall a little bit flat, so I think it's a way to kind of compensate and cover up for some of the shortcomings in the ring. And that's what we got for this week's wrestling news and notes, my friend.
Thanks for everybody for tuning in to this edition, the quarantine edition of the
Quarantine Files, baby.
Podcast. Yes, this will be a great time to reflect back when we archive this. Man, what a time. Sports has shut down, but wrestling goes on, and so do the podcasts that we air here on the Detroit Sports Podcast Network. Thanks to the DFS Doctors, thanks to the Motor City Pawnbrokers, thanks to the Flick Chat application, we're able to put on shows and even record via Skype and have a good time and break down wrestling. So I've enjoyed the conversation, cuz let's keep enjoying wrestling, watching the network, which we can give kudos to WWE for one thing. They made the network free, cuz. So start watching some old wrestling because of the fact that COVID-19 has shut everything down. If you're a fan of wrestling and you don't know, you can sign up for the network and get a lot of the old wrestling for free, $0 out of your pocket. So take advantage of that. See everybody next time. Follow Adam on Twitter at AdamRSTROZ. Follow the network at Detroit Podcast. Message anytime. We love the interaction.